I'm recording this. You meet us on LLP Meetup Monday. I don't even know what number we're on now. It's like 7 or 8 or something. But I'm going to record today's session, streaming it live as well. This is a guest talk between us and guest Josh Wilson. How's it going, Josh?
All right, it's going great, thanks. And I guess I'm going to show you slides out of a presentation I did a few weeks ago, which is not particularly how I want to talk about it with you guys.
Okay.
This was for a non-gamer audience, but just to cover the basic stuff.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah,
do whatever you want. We're
it's
happy that you're here. Like, this is awesome that you're sharing this with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So you guys know Watch the Skies, right? The Megagame by
I know
Jim
it from
Wallman?
SUSD introduced it, right?
A little bit.
Heard of it?
Maybe I know like 10%, right? Like I know the general framework, but I don't know the specifics. And the specifics are what I'm really interested in. Logistic stuff, the language, the content, the teamwork, how you set it up. I know it is a big game. That's about it.
Give us the TLDR of what is Watch the Skies then.
So that's where we got the inspiration, and we got actually some advice from Jim Wallman, who designed it. That's a one-day mega game, and because nobody told us we couldn't, and when I say we, I mean my partner George Highcollis and I said maybe we can do the whole week as a game, because we were tasked with running the summer seminar at Kangaku. And that's a 7-day, 49-hour course.
Sweet.
And
freedom to play, right?
That is amazing. So hang on, let me just
Yeah, this is amazing. You're like already a rock star.
Someone said, okay, Josh and George, you've got to take the seminar. You've got to take one for the team this year and run a summer seminar. And you said, fine, we're going to do Watch the Skies for a week. Yeah?
Right.
Right. That's amazing.
With the extent of our knowledge of Watch the Skies being watching a shut up and sit down review of the game, we had intended to actually play it here at the local game group in 2020.
And then COVID happened.
Canceled because of the pandemic and stuff. So we'd never actually played it, but we had the general idea of it. Like, this is what a mega game is, and this is how it's going to run. And we just jumped. Our director, wonderful woman who was willing to take the chance on it with no evidence other than our passion for games and the fact that we probably thought maybe it would work, which is literally how we spent 7 months. Probably, maybe this is going to work.
That's so cool. You're a rock star.
So I'll just jump into like the eventual end product and then talk about maybe context.
Got a few more questions. You alluded, tell me to shut up if you want, but you alluded to the fact that you didn't actually play Watch the Skies, but you kind of remixed it for your context. Is that fair?
Yes. In the end, we had to just rebuild it from scratch.
Awesome.
We didn't use anything from the original game other than the concept and
I'm sure you're going to introduce that to us later. Second mini question.
That's about it.
What's the general goal of this seminar then? What have they done in the past? What were your goals? Like, I mean, what did they tell you to teach them? Or can you tell us a bit about the seminar class?
The seminar, so we're in the science and technology department with non-English majors, and this is a 3rd, 4th year seminar, ostensibly for students who want to keep working on their English, but also for students who need a couple more coma. And in the past, if we go back to, say, 2018, 2017, before I got there, it was very relaxed. It was done at a camp, and they had various communicative activities in English In 2019, it was moved onto campus, and it became a little bit more academic. So,
did you see a drop in attendees for that one because it was like not camping anymore, but actually English on campus?
a little bit, and we actually pushed, or I pushed for taking it back to the campgrounds. And if we ever get to do it again, I would love to do another mega game in a campground.
Sounds
maybe
amazing.
with a horror scenario.
I want to help. Seriously, sign me up.
Yeah, sign us up.
Yeah.
Photocopy or like attack attendees. Like seriously, I'll totally do that.
Yeah. Random person in a hot mask. Yeah. Yep.
Got it.
So it's pretty much a gimme for the credits, attendance, participation. There is not a rigorous assessment for it. So that this context is really important at, being able to do this. So when the opportunity came up, I felt like, this is like a small dream. It's, it's one of these things I've always wanted to do. And this is the only chance that I'll probably ever get to do it. Because we didn't really have to create some sort of strict tool to assess them. And our director was able to say, yeah, okay, you can go ahead and do this thing. She did have to like literally meet with us every couple of weeks to confirm that we were actually doing what we said we were doing, because she couldn't quite believe this is what was going to happen. But so in the past, the kinds of activities that they did were things like presentations, and they would do a research project or a couple of research projects during the week. Neither George or I had taught it before. We'd never even seen it. So, among other things that we didn't know about, running the seminar was one of those. Again, probably for the best.
Quick question. Like, I've sort of found that the first time I run things, I have this incredible amount of energy and maybe anxiety, and that sort of fuels the preparation. And then maybe like the second time,
Okay.
Exactly.
The slide.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Oh.
Totally nervous energy, like waking up at 4:00 in the morning, going to school, like making worksheets. Was that you, pretty much?
Oh, yeah. So George and I carpool together, and so 3 days a week we drive in together. It's about an hour and a half drive, and we spent an unbelievable amount of time before the project started, debating games, talking, very generally and broadly, and if we weren't talking about this game, we would have been talking about Dungeons and Dragons or whatever board game we happen to be playing that week, or some other game. We were going to be talking about games, but
sweet.
And as far as we'll do one more about project management and stuff.
Yes.
Here's our timeline. You see, we had about 7 months, and that equated to about 5 months of talking about,
gestulating,
daydreaming, what if, and then like a month of anxiety-induced procrastination, where I just could not, for the life of me, spend more than 5 minutes in a row thinking about it. And then we had like 3 months worth of work crammed into that final month at the end, where those wheels are spinning and everything is clicking. The problem with the project is, a project of this scale has so many interlocking teeth on so many gears, and every time you pull on one or push one tooth, everything else changes. So it took us months to sort of get this amorphous blob of what this thing will be. And that time felt it didn't feel productive because we weren't making anything.
Yeah, well, I bet you didn't get a chance to like play test it, right? It's like you just got a one shot to yeah.
No, we didn't. We had done quite a few of the games in classrooms, so we knew about like the little bits and pieces of it.
Interesting.
But the only thing that we did that we were able to do before it started was to sit down and walk through the scoring system and try to figure out and then redesign the scoring system so that we'd have something that we could use during the session.
So have you sort of produced a version of this game that you could sort of hand off to other people for them to run in their context, or is it still very much a mess?
Well, we've talked about doing that. Which so it's kind of funny when you see the document for the original Watch the Skies game. It's quite thick. It's probably 50 or 60 pages, and it tells you nothing about how to actually run one of those games. Like you couldn't,
nice.
Yeah, nice. You couldn't open it up and be like, "What do I do?" if you're a facilitator for it. Yeah. And we feel like we could outline generally how to build it and how to go about it, and give sample activities and do all of that stuff. But it really has to be done. You have to lose a little sweat and blood building it yourself. In the end, we ran it like a D&D campaign. Was the idea of thinking about the final form. So
take us through your slides then, Josh. Let us see.
Let's okay.
It's just so interesting. So interesting.
So that's the session, roughly how it came out, our schedule. Let me walk through a few specific slides. I don't know how clearly you can see it.
Yeah, very clearly. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on an iPad mini. Do you mind making it bigger, like full slide sharing? Is that possible?
Yeah, if I do a full screen, let's see. Does that change how you see it?
No, we can still see the previous thing.
What if I just enlarge this window?
Close that side panel a bit, yeah. Oh yeah. Maybe.
Thanks. That's great. That's much better. Thank you.
All right.
I'm just on another PC doing other things.
So this was your slots that you had to allocate, right? I see.
Right. So these are the bits and pieces of it. So
your camera drop down, by the way.
Oh yeah, because I need to see the bottom of it.
All right.
So you can look at my belly button for a little bit.
Nice, thank you.
And I actually can't see because the screen on my laptop is busted, so I can't see what it actually sees.
You're good.
But this is the schedule, the 7 days of it, and we're focused now on basically the non-game parts of it, which were the very beginning with the introduction, the assessment, forming teams. And then at the end of most days, down at the bottom of the screen, you can see where it says country presentations. Those were each country talking about the activities of the day outside of the role-playing part of it. Then on the final day, we had a post-seminar assessments and feedback. They did a final presentation. That was actually in character. The presentation at the end, and we had the debrief. Actually, let me just bust out of that, because I'm looking at it now and thinking this is not what you guys need to see. Let's go back to this one. It's just, I think, a little bit more clear. Up at the top here.
Submit or die. Oh my God.
Yeah. Actually, hold on. Let's go to this thing first. Let's talk about the scoreboard. So we had 18 students, which was perfect. We had the two of us running it. We had some other teachers who were there in and out and could run some activities for us, which was really good. And we put the students into 5 teams.
Penalty for Japanese use. Wow. Love it.
Yeah, it's good. And we actually had very few. This isn't taken at the end of the game. Maybe 2 days left, but we had very few incidences. Actually.
So you basically worked in, like, I've done this in the past where you've worked in rules for like penalizing L1 use, and you've put it in as international incidents. That's literally for L1 use.
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, we didn't make a full par. So
gorgeous.
So what we did was, when they were at their tables in between different activities, they could use Japanese, so they could do the planning and strategizing and talking about the rules and things like that in Japanese at their table. But any international event or any international location, they had to speak English. And this was good. It gave them enough time to decompress in between the activities and to make sure that they could relay what was happening, because the team members would go off and do different activities with representatives from other countries. So afterwards, they could explain what happened to their teammates in Japanese. Our students were, for the most part, pretty low level. We were fortunate in that we had about 5 speakers who were confident enough and had good enough English to actually debate in front of everybody, more or less in character.
So you gave them time essentially to prepare for the English speaking activities, right? That's what you're saying. They had like a prep time.
Yes, they had a limited amount of prep time for the activities. For many of the games, they had almost no prep time, other than a few minutes to read the rules and then the instructions for the activities, which is one of the things that we want to change. We get to do a version 2, is we want to put a little bit more time into preparation for various activities.
Right.
For the language preparation. Like, now that we know the level of the students and things, going into it, we had no idea who was going to show up.
Wow.
And
God, you must have been sweating bullets.
Oh, we were. We had no idea if they would be up to the challenge of the games, if they'd be up for the role-playing aspect. The way that the original Watch This Guys works is it's almost entirely role-playing. You tell people, okay, you guys are Americans, and you are the president, and you are the head scientist, and you are the military head, and go. And most of the game is constructed through hidden information and like fog of war type mechanics. And you just let people make assumptions on the information that they do or do not have. And that creates a 7 or an 8 hour game. But because we knew we wouldn't be able to do that here, what we did is we put in a lot of the structure of it into this part. So where you see at the top of the screen here in the green, in the morning sessions, these are all different games or game-like activities. Some of them you can see are off-the-shelf board games like Hanabi or Pandemic or Keep Talking, Nobody Explodes.
The Mind.
And The Mind. Yeah, great. The Mind is a great game.
Oh,
yeah.
Me and Jonathan have loved that, yeah.
Yeah.
Good
it's
game.
So good.
Good cabin game.
Good cabin game, yeah. So in the morning, they're kind of just gaming. Is that fair to say?
Yes, they are just gaming, and all of the games were skinned to put them into the context of first contact with the aliens.
How does that work?
So here on the right-hand side, you can see them building the hypergalactic interstellar radio tower, which
Nice.
is the Marshmallow Challenge game,
Oh my
Right.
God.
and or not really a game, but activity.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then at the side of the screen, what they're doing there is info gap activity where they have to explain to their partner how to build complicated items out of Legos. So
Mm-hmm.
the
Reconstructing alien
students in
technology.
the middle of the
Love it.
screen, yeah. So,
So
and
good.
what we did with these, we did two different things. First is we situated them inside the story. So when they were building that tower, this was after first contact. Actually, I don't know if you can hear my screen or if you can hear this.
It depends what you share with us. If you're sharing a particular application, we can only see the
Hold on.
PowerPoint, the keynote.
Tell me if you can hear this.
Nope.
Okay, so
If you share
what
that with us, then we'll be able to hear it.
all right, let me do that. Let me
If you drop back down to the bottom left with the share, and then share whatever it is that's playing the sound will come through when you share it.
bottom left, start an activity.
Next to it, the middle one, share your screen.
Oh, share the screen, same thing.
Yeah, click it again, and then change the screen that you share. Like, change it to the one that makes
Oh,
the
okay.
sound. Yeah.
Haha.
And where do you work again, Josh?
Kwansei Gakuin.
Kwansei Gakuin. Okay.
So private school?
Yes.
Okay.
And
That's important to know.
all right, so I'm going to change windows. Hold on a second. The pop-up for the change windows is closing as soon as it pops up. Let me just stop sharing here.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, man.
Are you interested in publishing this somehow, like in LLP or?
Yes, I am, and at some point I'm gonna say, well, now you see what it is. How do I publish this thing?
Yeah. We can talk about that for the last 30 minutes or something.
Totally.
Yeah, we can see Alien Message MP3 now. If you press play, we should be able to hear it.
Let's see if you hear this. So this is during the First World Congress. This is the warm-up thing, and they were discussing whether or not they would fund a disaster in Australia. There was some catastrophic drought in Australia related to climate change, and they were debating this. And then we interrupted the World Congress with this message from the aliens.
Oh, yeah, we can't hear it. Maybe you can just chuck the MP3 into Discord so that we can play it ourselves.
Yeah, let me do that.
Yeah.
I do not know how I upload things.
I'll just chuck it into the window that says LLP Meetups. It should be a channel above general chat. Like the actual MP3, not the player, but the MP3.
Yeah.
If it's 25 seconds, it should be short enough to share.
Oops, it went to general.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Does that work? Hold on.
You have to open up the channel, like press on LLP Meetups, and then chuck it into that channel. It should work. So what, is it like a tape that you recorded or something?
Yeah, it's just a recorded message from the aliens, and as an activity, they had to decode it, reconstruct it, figure out what the meaning was, and then uh, on the next day, that's when we put in this radio tower. Now that they had the message, they had to build a tower in order to.
So the games that you chose in the morning, even though they were kind of like something's coming, maybe.
No, I'm typing.
Commercial games, but skinned to match the theme of the game, of the mega game that you're playing, basically, right?
Right.
Gotcha.
All right. And so that was one way that we put them in, that we connected the games. The other thing that we did was hold on a second. This is no longer. I want to get. Hold on a second. Let me just.
Yeah, man. Take your time.
Take your time. Don't even worry about it. I'm just blowing
here we go. Whatever. Screens. Here, I'll just show you the entire screen.
Okay.
That will work.
Yeah, we can see the whole screen now. Yep.
All the stuff.
All the stuff.
So then they built this tower, and then the secret sauce that worked really well is whatever the activity was for these sort of keystone activities, whatever we did, that went back into the story. So in the case of this tower, Japan built the tallest tower, and that meant that the only way to communicate with the aliens was through the Japanese tower. So for a limited amount of time during the game, Japan had the power to veto anything that was going to be said to the aliens. And so what we, again, a lot of this comes out of the not knowing what our students were going to be able to do. Right. So we weren't able to put these things concretely into the game in the first iteration. So what we decided was, well, we'll do these activities, and for the activities, they get points, and they also will get a special ability, right? And then we built on this system, and depending on what was happening in the game, we would give them these like special ability cards that they could use later. With the alien reconstruction, in a previous event, an alien ship had crashed. They had successfully investigated the ship. This is in a different activity. And at this point, they'd discovered some technology, and they were reconstructing the technology. Once they did it, then they got to determine, each country got to determine exactly what that technology was and what it could do.
So you didn't predefine it then?
No.
Excellent.
No, we didn't, for better or worse.
RPA.
So we didn't think at before it started, we didn't think we'd be able to, because again, we had so many gears with so many teeth that we were afraid of building a really fragile system. And what we decided was, we both DM'd, we both know sort of how collaborative storytelling works, right? So we decided that we were gonna give out these pieces. We were gonna have these set pieces to give the game the structure. And then for the story parts, we were going to leave that completely open so that we could step in and do this. So again, part of it was to give the players the decision-making responsibility. And then partly it was because we didn't want to know what the story was.
Interesting.
We wanted the story to come out of whatever happened, right? So Yeah, another example of that is
Discussing a
here's a
thermo detonator, as you do.
couple other games. Yeah, the first one here, the
So
pandemic one,
good.
was
So good.
called Calming the Crazies. So in
Hold
the
on, hold on.
world,
Like my students have trouble enough even playing Pandemic, but you're just building this as like a mini game inside of another game. Like,
yes,
like
yes.
my students like are like, I can. Does the medic remove 1 cube or 3 cubes? And how many moves do I get? And which card do I flip over? And that's like 45 minutes of instruction. And you just like decided to do that at the beginning of a day inside of a 7-day event.
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Now,
all right. All right.
Now, in
All
this
right.
case, that yeah, it's so we had what we had was we had a lot of buy-in. We
How?
had a lot of students who jumped with us. So we jumped and they came with us. And we, in our debrief, we felt like that really went a long way.
How did you get it? How did
now,
you get the buy-in? Like, because I think that's important. How did you get the buy-in?
Well, I think it would be wrong to ignore the context of it being a summer seminar.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Really compressed time period, right? So 7 days, like whatever happens in 7 days, we're all going to do this thing and then it's going to be over with. And then it also helped that our student teacher ratio was probably the best student teacher ratio these students have ever had in their lives.
Being right? What exactly?
Well, George and I were full-time all the time, and we had 2 other teachers who were there for most of the day and doing activities. Sometimes they were filming, sometimes they were taking care of some stuff in the back end. But they were there for probably 4 to 5 contact hours with the students, with 18 students. So
you mentioned at the start that the students were low level. Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned that a lot of them were there just to get credits. But it seems like
yes,
they were there and they enjoyed it though. Not like, because if they were just there for credits, they'd be like, "What is this bullshit? Like, to leave me alone."
Yeah, exactly. What are these guys on?
Right. We had a few we had a couple who were a bit surprised. We had 2 students who apparently had read none of our remote documents, anything we'd sent out, in which we had told them,
they're spies. They're totally spies. Yeah.
Yeah. Watch this, guys. You will play a game for the whole week. We told them that. But we did have, and actually now is probably a good time to talk about it. So where it says they're calming the crazies and those kids are playing the pandemic game, that's 4 of the 5 students who called the alphas. And this is another place where we got really lucky. These 4 or 5 students were confident enough and had good enough English, a high intermediate level English. They were good enough to carry the rest of their team in the really difficult into the role-playing aspects of it. And without them, we could have still done the game activities, and that's why we had built it around the tightly structured game type activities rather than the role-playing activities, because we didn't know we would have them.
Yeah, I see. So gaming, let me do a recap then. So gaming in the morning, these games are done in English. The games have a theme which is matched to the overall week of connecting with aliens. If you win the game, you get something for your team which is thematic. For example, you said that the guys that built the tallest tower, they could have contact with aliens, that kind of thing, right? That went on every morning. Like a new ability was discovered and given to the winning team kind of thing, yeah?
Right.
Excellent.
And yeah, and so with the calming the crazies, so in one of the world congresses, one of the second one, they've gotten this message from the aliens in the first one. In the second one, we give them the debate topic of, they have two debate topics. One of them is do we make this public? Do we tell the citizens of the world that there are aliens, or do we keep it private and in the meantime, prepare for the aliens to come? And shockingly, they voted almost unanimously. Not China, but the other countries voted.
Nothing to do. Just for the people that perhaps watch this later, has nothing to do with actual China. Just the students representing China.
We are right. Yes. The students representing China. Although later we will get to their representation of China.
Oh dear.
which was quite interesting. So they said, yeah, we'll make it public.
Okay.
And, in my notes for this is, hard decision. So I don't know if have you guys ever played a Powered by the Apocalypse role-playing game? Like Apocalypse World or Monster Hearts or
I've listened to a couple actual plays. I've never played it.
Well, this is what a lot of the World Congress events or these events are structured around is, you have a choice, you have a hard choice.
Right.
You can do this or you can do that. And whatever the choice is, there's a consequence.
Okay. Does that
and
exist
so
in
my
the
notes?
Sorry. Does that exist in the original Watch the Skies, or is that an original?
No. That's just with all those gears spinning, that's a mechanism that I thought of to be one of the gears, basically, that I could turn. And so they said, yeah, let's tell everybody. So then the next morning, when we walked in, I presented them with this and said, well, you told everybody, and now there's global panic. And each country rolled the dice to find out what kind of crazies, cultists or whatnot, that they had in their country, right, that they would have to deal with. And this hurt their global panic. You can see the meter that's there on the right, the global panic scale. Right. This raised global panic. It would have been worse had they chosen to cover it up and then the news escaped. It would have been worse.
Okay.
But so in the end, they made a good decision. Well, that's what the pandemic board game was. Instead of being about the pandemic, they were trying to deal with these groups of crazy people in their countries around the world.
Okay.
So we reskinned it as instead of the guy who builds the science facilities, it's the person who builds prisons.
So did you have like a game set up for if they'd chosen the other option and the crazies didn't come out? Then was pandemic played only because they'd made that choice to go public with it?
No, but the skinning of it, no. Actually, let me put it this way. We did not know, and we were not capable of planning on what was going to happen if they'd chosen the other one, except that the news would eventually come out.
Okay.
And it had pandemic. So this is one of those like delightful, unplanned, or I guess gaps. Again, this is another Powered by the Apocalypse reference, but it's blank spaces on the map. Right. So you don't when you're making a map, you don't fill everything in. You leave some blank spaces when you're role playing because the story is going to fill those in.
Gotcha.
So we would have done something different with pandemic. It might have been, we had other options like trying to find alien spies, some other things.
Gotcha.
and then reskinning it is one of those things that happened on the car drive, right? Riding home with me and my laptop open and George driving and us figuring out like, okay, now we've got to skin pandemic like this, okay, and then figuring it out.
Gotcha.
So let me talk about a couple other important components. So this is one of those things that we didn't think it was going to be as powerful as it was when we did it, but we went into the game thinking, okay, we want them to all right, let me back up. In the original Watch the Skies, each player role plays a representative from their country. So you are the president of your country, or you are the chief scientist or the diplomat or whatever it is. And in our earlier designs for the game, we had talked about doing that, but we decided that it wasn't going to work with our game for a variety of reasons. A big part of which was, the difficulty of having to not only role play a German, but the president of Germany. And the way that, when you stick students in a group and you say like, okay, decide who's going to do what, the chance of them choosing the most capable person for each role, right, approaches zero, right? The kid who gets the speaking role is the one who like wasn't fast enough to choose one of the other roles, right? So we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to put that pressure on them. But what we thought was, well, we can probably get them to role play their country. As in, we know how team dynamics works. If we put them on a team, they will like work hard for their team, right? And it's a team-based competition. They will compete for their team. And what we started with was blank poster on the first day, and their kind of warm-up activity was to design their country.
Wow.
Right? Because we wanted the country to be a player.
Right.
So it's their character sheet.
You could have done like Adamantium City or something. It could have been like totally fantasy as well then. Or did you want it to be more real worldy?
Well, we went back and forth, back and forth. We were terrified that stereotypes were going to be a problem. But in the end, we decided that like the affordances that are provided when you have a real world country, even if they just have the vaguest notion of what that country stands for, is more powerful. And we went back and forth about which countries to include and why would we include them.
Well, I guess even if they were like totally stereotyped and, borderline racist or whatever, at least you could debrief it afterwards and say, well, why did you choose that? But, so I think there's always a silver lining on choices like that.
This is always it's always a great activity to get student buy-in too, right? If you get them to draw something or decide something, then they become that more invested in whatever it is, right? Like I have my students draw a nameplate on the first day of class, write your name, draw 3 emojis that describe you. And it gets them in, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And we let them make choices about their countries. The American team like made a new kind of American flag. So we let them do that. And then what we did is we told them to write down their successes and their failures and the events that were important to their country and keep the history of their country on this document. And then in the presentations that they did at the end of the day, they didn't have to, but they sometimes referred to it.
So it's kind of like a journal, a picture journal of what happened each day for their country. Is that what we're seeing here?
right, like
Gotcha.
a public one.
Right.
So in the middle is a list of things that were referenced uh, for Germany.
In the
Right?
presentations. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and the things that they did.
Hmm.
There were a lot more events during the day, but these or during the week, but these were the kinds of things that they wrote down
Mm.
um, as being, important to their country. And this was, I think, one of the really important features, again, for the collaborative storytelling, because they did buy into the role playing of the country. We are Chinese, and this is how we act because we are Chinese.
Hmm.
Um, uh,
That's
we
great.
are Americans, and this is how we act because we are Americans. We are Japanese. Um, and not every team. We screwed up our assessment a tiny bit at the beginning. The very beginning of the game, we did a very simple communicative assessment where we were just showing them like a "Where's Wally" kind of scene and asking them to talk about it, and then took that to sort them into groups to make sure
Oh,
each
okay.
group had a mix of levels.
Mm.
That was perfect. It worked wonderfully, except for the fact that we had uh, two different assessors doing it, and that made the rubric a little complicated. Long story short, one of the countries, India, ended up with no particularly good communicators.
Mm.
Um,
Oh,
uh,
no.
and yeah, and they struggled for the whole week. Um, it, at the first couple of days, we were really worried. But by the third day, all of the other countries recognized it
Oh.
and started to sort of incorporate that into the game. So talking about like role playing the
Mm-mm.
countries, China on several occasions, so the weak country was India. China on several occasions, like uh, well, they took advantage of India, but they also couched that and reported that as them helping India because they are Asian nations
Mm-hmm.
who need to work together.
Mm.
Um,
Gorgeous.
and yeah, it was really we were stunned. Every every I can't explain to you. Every single day we would drive home with these big shit-eating grins like it's working. Did you see? Did you see this thing? Did you see this thing? Can you believe that they did that? That they had like heated debates, um, like absolutely not personal, but really solid role playing where they talked about uh, trust and value and um, and accused each other of each other's countries of spying, and they double crossed each other and triple crossed each other,
Mm.
um, and all in like a really good natured, like full on kind of role playing thing.
Mm.
Um,
How much did you not coach them, but like how much did you set the stage for the role playing that they were going to do? Like, did you give examples of something, or is it just the materials, like you giving them the materials that did all of that? How
uh,
much do you think your excitement or your knowledge or your literacy, your teaching prowess prepared them for the results that you saw? Or is it just the materials, just the context that just has this sort of like magic chemistry that everything just seemed to come together?
yeah, we've thought about that a lot, um, and talked about it, and we're not exactly sure because I know one thing that worked really well was after we'd put them into their teams, and so we'd assess them. It's about an hour into the seminar. I came out and I dimmed the lights down, and we put the starry sky slide in the background, and I said, "This is what we're going to do here. We're going to do this thing called collaborative storytelling. That means that we, all of us in this room, are going to tell a story together." And I pitched it to them like that, and I told them, we don't know what the ending of the story is. The story is totally determined by the things that you guys do and the decisions that you guys make during the week. Maybe the world will be destroyed. Maybe the world will be saved. We don't have that answer. The answer is in you. And
so that's incredible,
like
right?
that.
Like that move is just beautiful, right? To couch it like that and to trust your players, right? Is huge. You're not in control of the pandemic. You're not in control of the game rules. It's not the rules telling them what to do. You're just saying, I trust you to participate however you want to participate, which is beautiful.
And it really did, again, in the context of them knowing going into this that it was going to be a weird thing, and it being I think it's really important to reiterate that it's a 1 week seminar, like 1 week and we're done, good, bad, or otherwise, right? And I think it was really liberating for them. And
I'd be interested to know what the other seminars had done in the past, or if these students had done any of the seminars in the past. That kind of, were they coming into it feeling like this is gonna suck, or do you think they were coming into it feeling like I'm gonna learn a shit ton of English this week? Or
well, it has the reputation of being fun,
okay,
and for students who are motivated and are actually there to improve their English, that it's not like taking an intensive seminar where you have a class full of high achievers. It would never be like that, but that it is actually an effective 1 week of classes. But the other thing to consider is that none of these students had a face-to-face university English class, because they had spent the last 2 years with online teaching.
Okay, right.
They'd never actually been in a classroom with other English learning students. And going into it, we thought maybe this is going to blow up in our face, because they haven't even had like regular classroom instruction language for the last 2 years. But coming out of it, we thought maybe that was actually better, because they hadn't had any formative experiences.
Yeah.
Right? They, with the exception of a couple of students who are actually some of the worst performers, who had taken a spring semester class, none of them, we could say, like, none of them knew what a normal, quote unquote, university English class was like. Everything. So for all they knew, this was what you do in university English classes.
Which maybe it should be. Maybe that should be the standard. Maybe you do collaborative role playing and
wouldn't that be great? Where you play these brain burning games where they are just like smoke coming out of their ears in the morning, and then in the afternoon you have debates about the fate of the world. Or you actually, in the afternoon after lunch, you take a break and you play the Olympics. We had like our own version of the Olympics every day, and you run around a little bit, and then you decide the fate of the world in these debates.
So going back to Jonathan's question, what about the structure of the debates? Was there a structure, or did you give them like some hints, some props, some materials to like refer to? Or
we modeled it in the first. Let me see if I can grab one here. So we modeled it I want to say like just a few minutes in the first debate.
You're gonna need to zoom that in if you're keeping it.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's see, is this the one?
So there's a shit
No,
ton of
this one's.
materials that go with this as well. Then, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's look at the first one here. So this is what they got for
Yeah, that's
the
perfect. Thanks.
first World Congress.
Can you just let me read it? Yeah, topics. Usually you will have to deal with an emergency and spend a military economy or science points. Okay. Learn about the topic or topics that will be discussed. Okay. Decide
This
what
is an incredible amount of text that you're just throwing on students. That's amazing. I love it.
decide what actions your country wants to take. This is what you're saying they could discuss in their L1 basically, right? In the Japanese here.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Write your ideas on the country board. Excellent. Choose a speaker. Excellent. Present your ideas to the Congress. Excellent. Debate your ideas. Try to persuade other countries to join you. Excellent. Vote on proposed ideas. What am I doing? I should be doing Josh's game. Yeah,
You should be hiring Josh as a guest lecturer at Meiji for a semester.
Yeah.
Oh, please do. Please do for a seminar. So, these are the rules.
How did the points work?
I'll get back to it after we
Okay.
do this one. I'll show you. So this one, they were just introducing their country.
Okay,
and
you've
then
got some
this is a
examples
debate
there.
topic.
That's wonderful. So some example sentences maybe, and you're stressing that you should say we because it's a country. Excellent. Okay, I see.
Yep. They did that by the second day. They had all adopted the position of talking from the perspective of representing their country, which was really nice, surprisingly easy. So here was the first topic. This is the one that we interrupted at the end with the emergency announcement about the aliens.
As if they didn't have enough to think about then.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. So
did you dress up as an alien, Josh?
Oh, we talked about it. George actually played the role of the alien. He also played the role of the Russian diplomat and the Brazilian president. So he did all of the side roles. Although for this one of the part-time teachers who was working with us is Australian, and he came in and did a pitch for this.
So good.
So they have to pitch in their points to save Australia. Excellent. So it's a collab thing, but they've got their own self-country interest at the same time, right? Like I'm not giving 3. Like China should give 3. That kind of debate kind of thing.
Exactly.
And so can I just ask as well then, how closely does any of this match Watch the Skies? Like these kind of daily conundrums, if you like.
Well, they can call a session of the world leaders. That's when the presidents meet, and they meet very regularly, and they discuss things. There aren't any points other than you have military and economic points, but you don't spend them on an outside event, so to speak. You for example, do a thing with your military, and you can in that action that you take, because your military is of certain strength, you can do certain things. It's not a system like ours where we were trying to get them to use the resources in a concrete way.
Yeah.
And spend them. So they got this, and then they wrote their proposals on their whiteboard, and then they debated it.
So the whiteboard here is acting as a kind of little shortcut for expressions and things that they want in English as well, right? It thematically, it's like, this is our proposal, but also language learning style is it's these are the words that I must say, and these are the words I might forget, these are the phrases I must use, that kind of thing, right?
Right. So they would fill up the board with points, and we gave them time. I don't know if we did it for the first one, but at least by the second one, the way that we structured it is they would have time to talk in their groups about their decisions, and then they would have some amount of time to mingle with the other countries and talk in English so that the US could go to Germany and say, like, look, this is what we want to do. Are you with us on this or not? And that was that turned out to be really good for getting the lower level students involved in it, because everybody got the chance to, and or was strongly encouraged to go out and collect information and to scheme and things like that. And they would do things like spy on each other. They would eavesdrop on other conversations and come back and tell their teams. It's great. And so what happened?
Did you go ahead? Yeah, go ahead.
So just to cap off this event, so what happened in this event is basically because the United States started out with more points, the other countries of the world convinced the United States to pony up for most of the reward. And the United States was actually one of the strongest. There were a couple who said, like China and India both said, we don't think we should pay much money, but we'll support it if other people spend the points. And then the United States ended up paying the most. They got the award for leading it, and they also got the special ability of helped Australia, which just became a thing that if they wanted to use it later in the game, they could just bring that up and say, like, Australia is here to back us up on whatever the thing is.
So they'd have one of these each afternoon then, essentially, right? One of these World Congress topics and things to discuss, debate.
Yes. Right, and then they got more and more dramatic with each passing day. They became more important and more dire.
Okay.
The way that the scoring system works.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Is we had to make something. We went through so many versions of this, and we had to make something that was relatively easy and very, very flexible, because we had no way to plot out where it was going to go. So where it says points and resources there, the first one is total. That's their starting total. And that total is made up of stability, military, science, and economy points. And they couldn't spend stability, with a few exceptions, but military, science, and economy is the resources that they spent to do particular things, to take particular actions. And in various ways, they could gain those points as well. And for their score, we simply used that change field, which we're not going to do this the next time we do it, but it worked pretty well. It was very, very simple, right? If they were spending more points than they were gaining, their score was lower. So what happened at the beginning of the game, particularly because the US didn't have a particularly assertive team, is everyone said, well, the United States has all the power, so they should do these things, which we expected. But what we were expecting the US to do, and eventually they started to do, was to extract concessions for their engagement in activities. That is to say, yes, we will use our military for this, but you have to vote with us in the next World Congress, or you have to support us in this way, or you have to give us an IOU for a debt. And that was a hard thing for the students to negotiate. They weren't particularly good at that. And the problem with this system, of course, is that it's too it was negative, that the way we'd structured it ended up with pretty much everybody getting negative points rather than positive points. Right? Because we didn't really know how much they were going to win in the activities and how many points they were going to get for the activities.
Turned into a dystopia.
Also, yeah, and we also wanted things to like start out hot and just get hotter, so that by the end of the game they were kind of out of points. They didn't have a lot of military or science or economy to spend. They'd used it all up, so in the dire, last couple of days they had to make hard decisions. And that worked relatively well, except for that part about it's a little bit too simple. What we're going to do next time?
Here we go.
Yeah. We're already talking about the next run. Is incorporate more victory points into the total score,
like the World Games and Awards and stuff, right?
Yeah. So what we found was that the really good role players would go out on a limb. Japan single-handedly changed the course of the game by just adamantly saying, no, we will not fight. We will not do that thing.
Right.
And we are willing to spend this much on economy, even though nobody's supporting us, to avoid this conflict, which was fantastic role playing, but really hurt their score. Whereas other countries like India, the country with the weaker players, they weren't engaging in the role play very much, so they weren't spending a lot of points.
All right, we've got about 20 minutes left, Josh. So just give us some more bits.
Hold on. So I want, just thinking about that. This is absolutely incredible. This is just the amount of work that you've put into it, the things that happened, the media that you've got, the slides that you're showing us. It's just incredible. Even it's.
You could pitch it, so many different ways.
Hard to, it's on one hand really hard to imagine other people doing it. It's hard to even get a teacher to play Snakes and Ladders and have their students discuss Snakes and Ladders, let alone have a 7-day immersive simulation. But it's just beautiful. You've got to write a book, or you've got to write a series of articles, or you've got to put together an interactive website or something. This is just stellar. I don't know if you are interested in do you feel pressured to publish? Are you looking for CV points?
Oh, I would love to. I'd love to publish, although I'm not a researcher. I
would love to collaborate with you to figure out how to share this. And I'm sure James has some interesting ideas too. This is such a sort of atypical experience for a researcher and for students that we've got to figure out some beautiful way to do it. My second question is I'm glad that you're interested in publishing, and let's figure out how to do it. Did you take notes? Did you record the whole thing? Were you journaling? Were you taking field notes, or were you just so in the moment reacting to everything that could you
a little bit of both. So we had a couple of GoPros, and the part-time teachers were recording things, although it's pretty hit or miss. Actually, I don't want to call them part-time teachers. They were full-time. And I have a debrief, my own personal debrief of what we did, why we did it, what worked, what didn't.
That's beautiful.
Work.
How about the Congress? I guess everybody's working together during the World Congress. Was that recorded at all? Just to get examples, evidence of speech acts and stuff from.
Yeah, we have bits and pieces. I don't
Gotcha.
think we ever recorded a full, like, say, from the front of the room Congress, but
Okay.
we have recordings of particular speakers
Mm.
and some points where the debate is going back and forth. We have a nice hot hot point from Japan where the leader is saying, uh, "We trusted you. You promised us America. You can't turn your back on us now." Kind of rhetoric,
Amazing.
which is really good. I want to tell you the ending though.
Go on, go on, go on, go on.
Okay, well, I'm just
So
glad that you want to publish.
I,
It's
I
also the
do, I
metrics
do, and
for
I mean,
okay.
I think figuring out how to publish it is would be a great thing to do over winter break. I would love um to
A
like
20-part YouTube series.
sit down and figure out like how you put this in some form that
Hmm.
people can understand. I mean, maybe I
Okay,
should just write down what I'm doing now, but the same thing I'm saying now, but
we'll
um
figure it out.
uh
It can be done. It can be done.
so yeah,
Yeah. What do you wanna? Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Show us the end then.
I
Show
want
us the
to
end. Go on.
I want to show you the ending.
Was this off the cuff? Was this because of what happened? It wasn't pre-prepared, right? Wasn't prepared, I mean.
So so what we did the same thing that the regular game Watch the Skies did with the aliens, and that is that the aliens have to you have to have a rubric for how the aliens run
Hmm.
in order to make their decisions logical and plausible. And our decision was that the aliens don't.
Fail a die roll.
Um,
What?
yeah.
Where?
So the
Look towards the bottom.
um,
So meta.
Is the
Fail.
red
uh,
versus pink round? Oh, cool. Metagame, right
yeah,
on.
It's just poking
yeah,
fun at itself. The Americans fail
yeah.
a die roll. That's ridiculous.
S- so they haven't attacked the aliens yet. They've come close a couple of times during the game where they haven't attacked them. They've convinced the aliens have been convinced by Japan to come to Earth to negotiate, and then in the final session with the aliens, where they actually get to meet the aliens and talk to them, they find out that the aliens are peaceful, but that the alien simulations have determined that it's going to be runaway climate change and the world is going to turn into Venus, and they want to protect the life on Earth, not just human life, but all the life on Earth, and that in order to get their technology, humans have to agree to give up electricity for 25 years. That the aliens will use some EMP device and block all electricity for a generation in order for humanity to reset and I forget what the actual text says, but um,
Oh, that's the
and
canonical game ending. That's from Watch the Skies.
well, the Watch the Skies one just says in Watch the Skies the aliens are actually a faction played by the players, and what all it says
Um,
about the aliens is that you cannot use violence.
Hmm.
Uh, And other than that, it doesn't say anything at all. And it's up to the players who the aliens are, what their reasons are, and things like that, whether
gotcha.
or not they reveal it. And we knew that the aliens were nonviolent, but we didn't know what the end game would be until we got to a couple of days away from it. And uh, we set it up as a choice. They could either submit to the alien demand and live for 25 years without any electricity, which I assumed wrongly that most of the players would choose, but they were really into the role-playing part and said, no, humanity can't survive like that. The two other choices were um, go it alone, meaning try to use the technology that they'd got from the crashed alien ship to try to stop climate change on their own. And for the second choice, they would have to pool economic points and science points in order to stop climate change. And if they got enough people, enough countries willing to do that, they would have a good chance of succeeding at that one. And then the third one was try to steal technology, try to steal the aliens' technology from them. And in
So
that case,
good.
they pooled their military. And on our final day, the countries were they had gamed out their place in the game and figured out their best paths to winning the game. And in the final moments of the World Congress, they all, not all of them, but they started to backstab each other and tried to trick each other. They said, well, we're gonna take choice number two, who's with us, or we're gonna take choice number three, and then secretly when the vote was done, they were gonna change their choice to choice number two, which is what you see unfolding here.
Right.
There was a big row between Japan and the United States, where they were talking about going to war with each other because Japan had promised to protect the aliens. And yeah, everybody pulling their like secret ability cards and saying, but we have the plant-based supercomputer, we're going to use that. And the Americans, as you see here, saying, well, we've got the robot laser tank gun and we're going to use that against your bioshield.
Could you imagine getting some of the students from like the journalism program or something to come in and try to report on this in real time? Like that's the next stage, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where you do, or you get me and James to do it, right? Like we just act as journalists or like media promoters or something. Like because then you get like the meta level or the
well, you could bring the Meiji economics and political science.
Yeah, you could.
And
yeah,
they could
right.
be the advisors.
Informatics students.
Yeah,
that's right. Totally.
Well,
I think
the original game actually has, so it has the countries as teams, and then it actually has the media, who are not one of the countries. And
so good.
The media goes around and interviews people and then writes these reports. And, you know, countries put out their propaganda to the media. And we wanted to do this in the original, in our game, but we backed off it on the advice of our director, who said, I think the student team that is the media team will be disappointed if they don't get to play the game.
It's another whole it's another whole part of the sand pit that you've got to design as well, right? But I think if you gave choice, like who wants to be the media, then they're definitely not going to be disappointed then, right?
Yeah, we think if we do it again, so there's a real
people live tweeting. Totally, right?
Live tweeting, yeah. Just have like Twitter in the background.
You get a live tweet, or you stream it.
Yeah,
right? You get a streamer, or you get like,
that's absolutely. And we had talked a lot about. We ended up taking it out for the student presentations. We talked a lot about having them maybe make some media and create some of their own media for it. But what we found was that there just wasn't enough time in the day in our schedule. So
I think keeping it to its core, as you did, like was probably a wise move. Yeah, for the first.
It's core. It's 7-day, 40-hour core.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, just the original, the core game loop, though, right? Like you do something in the morning, it affects the afternoon. There's a topic to discuss. Yeah. You can add the bells and whistles and everything later on, right? But yeah.
And if you want to
Amazing.
play it, if you would like to do this,
Yep.
just this is you. This is what we were like 7 days, just like this. Whew.
Well, let us help you the next time, right?
Yeah, we actually had a couple of volunteers who wanted to help, and next time it will be in a state before it starts where we actually know how it's supposed to go and what is going to happen. So we're
Uh,
looking forward to doing something again. We might be able to run it next year. We're pitching it to our department is not in charge of the program this year, but we're pitching it next week to the department it is. We have to
Killer.
convince them to hire us for it, but yeah, if they do, we'll get to do the second version of it.
So, did you have a budget? You said hire. Like, did you have a budget? Did you need permission? Like,
Well,
um,
that there's actually the budget is actually we don't have a set budget, but the way that uh, it's determined is you have you have enough for 4 full-time teachers, and then if there are additional students who come, additional students can be hired. I
that's
mean, additional
that's a
teachers can
private
be hired.
university for you. That's great.
How many
Yeah,
students did you
fantastic.
have
Yeah.
altogether? Did you say there was 5 teams of 4 or something?
So we had 18, which came out to
Okay.
3 teams of 4 and 2 teams of 3. Um, and then, of course, if somebody else were running it, or if we run it again, there's this incredible conundrum of what do you do with a particular number of students.
Mm-mm.
Teams of 4 is a very sweet spot, but what do you do if you have 30? Can you have enough? Could you have enough countries?
Mm.
Could you actually have the World Congress with 6 or 7 countries, or does that break the World Congress?
Mm.
Um,
Interesting. So you
there's
could put a cap on it.
yeah,
Yeah. If you ever wanted to like run it again and for like a paid thing, then you'd say, well, capped to so many students or something. Hey.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you in
if I were
communication? Yeah. Are you in
sorry, what was that?
communication with the Watch the Skies people? Like, you said you got some advice from them. Are you going to share your materials with them or collaborate
Yep.
or?
Yeah, we told so yeah, Jim Wallman in the early stages, we asked him to talk to us and he gave us some advice. One of the points that he made that we we realized on day 2 was the most important thing he said was trust your players.
Yeah.
They will make this their story.
Look at that.
Um,
Look at that. That's the title of the paper. Trust your players. Trust your
trust
students.
your
That's it.
players.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a hell of a leap. It's great.
Yeah, and then we've sent him some video, and then I'm hoping that we're going to get to talk in January, and I can give him the full breakdown of everything that happened. Yeah, I think he'll love it. He's already, it's evolved quite a bit from what he was doing, but we never would have done this
But that's
without.
that's fine though.
And that's what we told him
it's
before.
your own version.
We
Yeah.
right, but we couldn't even conceive of it
Right.
if we hadn't seen those
Yeah.
videos and seen like, oh, okay, all
Right.
day long, one solid game, you can actually do that.
It's just
So,
incredible. This is fantastic. Never seen anything like this before. This is, beautiful.
Wow.
yeah,
Stefan.
well, thank you guys for letting me talk about it.
You knocked
It
it out of the
just,
park, Josh. I know I've been seeing you do
it
like
just,
werewolf and stuff and keep talking no one
yeah,
explodes. It's pretty run of the mill around here, but something like this. Woo!
They just put them all
yeah,
together and string it in with like an alien,
I know,
first
right?
contact scenario, and there you go.
Yeah.
You just needed the 7-day narrative to
This
thread
is
everything together.
this is your magnum opus, I think, Josh. This is
yep.
it. You found it.
I feel like that.
You
I
got to
feel
keep
like
going with
I did. And when the final day wrapped up, I turned to George and I said, This is the best thing I've ever done in my career. This
Oh,
is literally the like funnest,
Yeah.
most engaging, most terrifying
Mm-mm.
thing that I've ever done.
but it shows like you put so much passion into
Exactly.
this
I was gonna
that
say
like,
effort
in
in
like,
equals effort out,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah. And that's the thing.
Right.
Like, so in a way, publishing this is tricky because a lot of people aren't going to read like a book, right? I would love a book about this. I would read a book about
Right.
this. I read it. You should publish a paper. We can help you publish papers. We'll collaborate. But like, this could inspire 20 other teachers or 200 other teachers to try this in places where they can, like some sort of charter school or another private school, or like think about that Mercury person in the States who has a charter school and RPGs. Like, maybe a YouTube series is the right way to publish this and share what you've done, going through day by day, just showing slides and talking, so that people will watch a 10-minute video while they're eating lunch or something.
in terms of academic paper, though,
You can do both.
Like
there's so much in here. It's crazy. There's so much good stuff in here. This blows LLT out of the water.
recording again.
Well,
keep that in there. I think it's a lot better. I think this is just amazing work from a teacher who's passionate about games, passionate about student learning, has crafted this incredible experience for students, is documenting everything, and is still passionate about sharing it. So, wow, I'm blown away.
Oh, thanks. And I'm quite serious when I say I really do want to publish it, and I will need a lot of help. And if I can ask you guys for that help,
you're in the right place. Do you know how to use Google Docs?
I do.
Well, you know how to use Discord now, so everything's set up. You
Mostly.
tried to chuck the audio file into the voice chat. You can delete those because they didn't come up. Yeah.
Wow.
So let me just show you. If you click on LLP Meetups right above General. Yeah.
Yep.
And then chuck it into that window. Okay, now press enter at the bottom, so you actually send it. Like press like you're gonna write a message. Press return. Now it will come to. Okay, there we go. Now we got it. Now we got.
Look at that. Step by step.
Man, I can tell you how to use Discord pretty well. Yeah.
There's a really interesting academic paper. There's a really interesting academic paper in the sort of the game design elements of this. I think that a lot of just people studying gamer culture and emergent design and
there we are.
Like the role playing aspects of it. I think that would be a really cool thing to write up in an academic paper.
The multimodality of it, the framework.
Oh yeah, holy cow, yeah. But it is a beast, Josh. Like just the amount of work that you've put into it and the experience. Like people have trouble writing up like a 20-minute intervention. Here, play this game and take this vocabulary quiz. And it's just amazing how much work you've put into this thing. Is your co-creator interested in helping you publish it? Because you definitely need a lot of people to do the heavy lifting. Okay, that's great.
In fact, he wanted to come in tonight. He got sidetracked and he had to make dinner.
It happens.
Yep.
That's great. Well, we should we could keep thinking about how to share it.
Well,
it depends what you need. Like do you have a PhD already? You could run this as your PhD.
No, I don't have a PhD, but I also don't have the aptitude for.
Oh,
I'm gonna stop recording. I'm gonna stop recording, guys. I'm gonna stop recording. Yeah. So, Josh, thank you for your presentation about and your talk about. Well, what are you calling it? It's not Watch the Skies. Does it have a name?
That's a problem.
Yeah.
We can no longer call it Watch the Skies, so we haven't renamed it yet. So the next version 2 will
Watch them skies.
Yeah.
All right. Let me stop the stream there.